Last year, I asked 475 men in a survey, would you like more meaningful, close friendships? 39% of you with a resounding yes said definitely. And 33% of you said probably. You add those up and we've got 72% of you guys saying, yes, I would be in favor of feeling closer to other guys, which is awesome. And actually is pretty reflective of women in our culture right now too. This is not like some race where women have this all figured out by any stretch of the imagination. Most of us are walking around saying, this networking and this knowing everybody is fine, but it's not leaving me feeling more supported, more known, more connected. And we want that for you. And unfortunately, we have some prevailing wisdom out there that talks about how men and women do friendship differently, as though it's prescriptive and not descriptive. In other words, you've probably heard that men do friendship shoulder to shoulder and women do friendship face to face, meaning that men theoretically want to do friendship next to each other while they face an activity, whether it be a computer screen or a television screen or a golf game or whatever the activity is. We're doing something next to each other, and that's how we bond. Whereas the common wisdom says that women want to do face to face and sit and talk and gab and all the language we have around that. And the truth of the matter is, I take a stance on this that believes while those two different ways of bonding are certainly prevalent, they are not split down the line by gender. I would actually argue it has more to do with either how we've conditioned the genders, meaning we're describing how it is happening because that's how we've set it up to happen. That's how we've normalized men to bond and connect and women to bond and connect. But also it has to do with personality and temperament. We all know that some of us are extrovert versus introvert, and maybe the extroverts need to process externally more and want to hear their own thoughts and talk about it and get some feedback from somebody else a little bit more than introverts. Well, we know that extrovert introvert has nothing to do with whether you're male or female. That's across the board. We get divided on that. We also know that some of us bond more and feel like walking away from time together, it's important to answer the question, that was fun and that was challenging. And so for some of us, activity might be more meaningful for us. We might feel more bonded if we went on that hike together and if we played that game and had that sense of accomplishment together or did that thing together. Undoubtedly, there's many of us that it's like a spectrum. Many of us want to do both to some degree, but we also know that there's a ton of guys, a ton of you that really want to sit face to face and connect and be seen and talk and be able to have your heart heard and connected. In fact, when I did that survey, I asked the question, which one factor helps you decide who you feel the closest to? And I listed 12 or 15 different factors. And it is to note, actually quite interesting, that by far the number one answer was what we talk about. 73% of you said that was the number one factor that determined whether you felt close to another guy or not. What we talk about. The very second thing right there, what 64% was how safe I feel in confiding in that person. And so we've got numbers in the 60s and 70s up there for you having to do about talking with each other. The third place position, I mean, you had to drop down into the 30% and the 20%. Almost every other factor was down there. So how long you've known each other, how much you laugh together, how much you enjoy the same activities. Those are like cut in half. It's like 34% and below said that was the number one thing that really made a difference. So you've got men, all of you who answer that survey, saying what we talk about and how safe I feel in talking to that person is what's going to determine the difference between how close I feel to somebody or not. That's men answering that. It's not whether we root for the same sports team, right? And so we are reminded again that being seen in a safe and satisfying way, that's my definition of a close friendship, that's my definition of frientimacy, being seen in a safe and satisfying way, that is something that all genders need and want because it's a human being hunger. We pursue that in romance, we pursue that in our family relationships, and we pursue it in our friendships. Whether we've encouraged that, modeled it, or inspired men to do that, the truth of the matter is men in friendship with each other want to feel seen in safe and satisfying ways as well. That's a hunger that we all have. When we can look at the biology, the psychology of who we are and how we're wired, all of us want to be known. Absolutely. And so I'm going to just point out really quickly the 3 requirements of relationship, because this has nothing to do with what your gender is, what your gender is, how you've been conditioned, what has been modeled, what you prefer, what your preferences, your personality are. It might impact how you express yourself in these 3 things. It might inform what you enjoy the most or what you're most comfortable doing. But at the end of the day, what we know is what builds trust, what bonds people, what helps people work well together are these 3 things. And so I have a lot of videos on them, so I'll just briefly mention them here and you can go watch other videos, because little secret, even if it doesn't say men's friendship on the video, it still pertains to friendship in general and would be of value to you no matter who you are. But really quickly, the Frientimacy triangle is on the bottom of the triangle is positivity. That's where the satisfying piece comes in. We want it to be enjoyable, we want it to be fun, we do want to laugh with each other, we do want to joke around and have fun together. Absolutely. We want somebody to express gratitude and affirmation of who we are. And we definitely want it to feel like not much drama. We don't want it to feel obligatory. We don't want it to feel all the negative stuff. At the end of the day, it needs to feel more good things, more positivity than the bad things, right? By a 5-to-1 ratio, we know from science actually. So at the very base, the very foundation, we want somebody we enjoy being with. Makes sense. That's all of us, men and women. There's nobody that doesn't want that. And then we go up the triangle on one side and we have consistency. Consistency is the commitment we feel, it's the history we've developed, it's the regularity with which we see each other, it's what activities we do together. So maybe some of us do enjoy walking while we talk more, and some of us enjoy sitting at a cafe more. And again, we know that doesn't have anything to do with gender. That's simply, each of us has preferences. We all have different lives. We all enjoy different things. But finding what those things are and being with somebody regularly and finding that way of what is it that our relationship does together is important. And we know that the more things we can do together, the more glue holds our friendship together, the more rich it feels. So while we might love playing fantasy football together and having that be something that brings us together, we know that the friendships that will feel the strongest will be the ones that also have another way of being together in the off season. Or if we only have friends that we play poker with, but if we actually get to know them and we go on a double date with them and their spouse, with our spouse, we know that any way that we can add another way of being together to help create more consistency, more patterns, just more ways of being together, we will end up feeling more supported. This is the requirement of relationship that leaves us feeling safe. The more we spend time together in a different variety of ways, the more we feel like we know what to expect from each other. And whenever we feel like we can predict how the other person would respond or feel like we trust them or that they're reliable, that's what makes us feel safe. So when we talk about feeling seen in a safe and satisfying way, satisfying is the positivity, and this consistency is where we build that safety. So we want somebody we can enjoy, we want somebody we can depend upon, and those make sense to all of us. Now, if we just leave it at these 2 before we enter into the 3rd requirement, this is where most men are socialized and conditioned and modeled to have their friendships. So it's usually like people we enjoy hanging out with, and we do it regularly. So it can be whether it's our high school classmates we still get together at the bar with, or if it's our poker group or our men's group at church, or whatever the way you do your friendship. It's often that we expect you to get together, stay in touch with them to some degree. That's the consistency piece, and you have a good time with them, and that's the positivity piece. And for most of us, if we just leave it there, that's what I would call our social groups. Those are the people you would call your friends. But many of us are forgetting that the 3rd requirement of relationship, the one that starts our definition, that's when we want to feel seen in a safe and satisfying way. So this is great. This feels safe and satisfying to have your circle of friends. But if you don't feel seen in the way you want to feel seen, it's because of the 3rd requirement, which is vulnerability. Vulnerability is our sharing of each other. It's our getting to know each other. It's the information we tell, the stories we share, the talking about our history, talking about our future, sharing what's causing us stress, sharing where we feel like we're doing awesome in life, being able to let more of us be seen, more of us be known by somebody else. And this is the one that helps us walk away feeling like they know me. Like they get me. And that's what we hunger for. And unfortunately, we've often, not all the time, but we've often only told men that it's acceptable for them to have this experience in a romantic relationship. We allow, when you're with women, to talk and to share. But the truth of the matter is, two men can do this. Men do this all the time. There's men's groups. There's so many of you writing me emails and coming up to me at my events saying, I wish I knew who the other men were. And wouldn't it be interesting if you look at the fact that 72% of you want deeper friendships, and most of you say that what makes those feel deeper for you, what would help the most, is being able to talk about more things and feeling safe confiding in each other, then chances are really high that 3 out of the 4 guys around you want this. Will it be awkward to learn new ways of doing it? Probably. Will it be uncomfortable? Do you have enough modeling? Maybe not. Do you want to just keep doing it the way you're doing it though? Or are you ready and willing to shift? Ready to say, you know what, I live in a culture that has not conditioned me to do this, but I have a human hunger, a human need. I'm wired to want to be known, to be seen, to feel supported, to feel known. And if we want that, then we can do these 3 things no matter who we are. Yes, how we express them might look different based on our personality or what we've each been conditioned to do. But each of these are also new things, new ways, muscles that we can practice. We can practice building up the muscle of vulnerability, and it will get stronger and stronger and stronger. In fact, next week in my video, I think I'm just going to focus on the vulnerability piece. So we'll talk about how we can increase that vulnerability in safe and meaningful ways for the guys, and hopefully that will be helpful. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them here on this page. I'd love to hear your own experiences. I'd love to hear if this resonates with you. I'd love to hear if you are one of the guys that's like, yes, I would like more meaningful friendships. I would love to hear back, like, does this land for you? Does this make sense? And does your experience match what I'm hearing from all of you in the surveys? So again, my name is Shasta Nelson, and I'm excited to be able to be one more voice saying, hey, all humans need connection. And that includes you guys. Thanks for being with me.